to Snoozecast, the podcast designed to help you fall asleep. Find us on snoozecast.com and follow us on Instagram at Snoozecast, where you'll find behind-the-scenes content. If you enjoy our show, please write us a review on the podcast app. Also, share us with a friend. This episode is brought to you by our Patreon supporters and by Gentle Interludes. Tonight, we'll read excerpts from the Feast of Autolycus, including An Autumn Dinner and The Magnificent Mushroom, published in 1900 and edited by Elizabeth Robbins Pennell. Pennell was an American travel writer, columnist, biographer, and memoirist. Her biographies included the first in almost a century of the proto-feminist Mary Wollstonecraft, and also one of her uncle, the folklorist Charles Godfrey Leland. Coincidentally, Charles Godfrey Leland compiled the book Algonquin Legends that the recent Snoozecast episode Badger the Mischief Maker was based on. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. An autumn dinner. Why sigh if summer be done, and already gray skies, like a pall, hang over the foggy town? The sun may shine, wild winds may blow, but every evening brings with it the happy dinner hour. With the autumn days, foolish men play at being pessimists and talk in platitudes of the cruel fall of the leaf and death of love. And what matter? May they not still eat and drink? May they not still know that most supreme of all joys, the perfect dish, perfectly served? Small indeed is the evil of a broken heart compared to a coarsened palate or disordered digestion. Therefore have we cause to be merry and to cast away all care. Autumn has less to distract from the pleasure that never fails. The glare of foolish sunlight no longer lures to outdoor parties. The soft breath of the south wind no longer breathes hope of happiness in Arcadian simplicity. We can sit in peace by our fireside and dream dreams of a long succession of triumphant menus. The touch of frost in the air is as a spur to the artist's invention. It quickens ambition and stirs to loftier aspiration. The summer languor is dissipated, and with the rebirth of activity is reawakened desire for the delicious, the pungent, the fantastic. Let an autumn dinner then be created, dainty as all art must be, with that elegance and distinction and individuality without which the masterpiece is not. Strike the personal note, forswear commonplace. The glorious, unexpected overture shall be mussel soup. For this great advantage it can boast, It holds the attention not only in the short, all too short, moment of eating, but from early in the morning of the eventful day, nor does it allow itself to be forgotten as the eager hours race on. At 11, and the heart leaps for delight as the clock strikes, the pot au feu is placed upon the fire. At 4, tomatoes and onions, the onions white as the driven snow, communing in all good fellowship in a worthy saucepan follow. And at 5, after an hour's boiling, they are strained through a sieve, peppered, salted, and seasoned. And now is the time for the mussels, swimming in a sauce made of a bottle of white wine, a bouquet garni, carrot, excellent vinegar, and a glass of ordinary red wine, to be offered up in their turn, and some 30 minutes will suffice for the ceremony. At this critical point, bouillon, tomatoes, and mussels meet in a proper pot, well rubbed with garlic, and an ardent quarter of an hour will consummate the union. As you eat, something of the ardor becomes yours, and in an ecstasy, the dinner begins. Sad indeed would it prove were imagination exhausted with so promising a prelude. Each succeeding course must lead to new ecstasy, else will the dinner turn out the worst of failures. In turbot au gratin, the ecstatic possibilities are by no means limited. In a chaste silver dish, make a pretty wall of potatoes, which have been beaten to flour, enlivened with pepper and salt, enriched with butter and cream thick and fresh, and altogether adorable, seasoned with Parmesan cheese, and left on the stove for 10 minutes, neither more nor less. Let the wall enclose layers of turbot, already cooked and in pieces, of melted butter and of cream, with a fair covering of breadcrumbs, and rely upon a quick oven to complete the masterpiece. After so pretty a conceit, where would be the poetry in heavy joints or solid meats? Sweetbread with truffles surely would be more in sympathy. The sweetbreads baked and browned very tenderly, the sauce fashioned of truffles duly sliced, marsala, lemon juice, salt, and paprika, with a fair foundation of benevolent bouillon, and with so exquisite a dish, no disturbing vegetable should be served. And after, if you still hanker for the roast beef and horseradish of old England, then go and gorge yourself at the first convenient restaurant. Would you interrupt a symphony that the orchestra might play God Save the Queen, there is a place for all things, and the place for roast beef is not on the ecstatic menu. Grouse, rather, would meet the diner's mood. Grouse with memories of the broad moor and purple heather. Roast them at a clear fire, basting them with maternal care. Remember that they, as well as pheasants and partridges, should have gravy in the dish and bread sauce in a cup. Their true affinity is less the vegetable, however artistically prepared, than the salad, serenely simple. That discord may not be risked. Not that the time for the bewildering vegetable medley or the brilliant tomato. Choose instead lettuce, crisp, cool, romaine by choice. Sober restraint should dignify the dressing. A suspicion of chives may be allowed. A sprinkling of well-chopped tarragon leaves is indispensable. Words are weak to express, but the true poet, strong to feel the loveliness, now fast reaching its climax. It is autumn. The mood is fantastic. A sweet, if it is not tending towards the vulgarity of heavy puddings and stodgy pies, will introduce an amusing and sprightly element. Omelette soufflé claims the privilege, but it must be light as air, all but ethereal in substance, a mere nothing to melt in the mouth like a beautiful dream. And yet, in melting, it must yield a flavor as soft as the fragrance of flowers and as evanescent. The sensation must be but a passing one that piques the curiosity and soothes the excited palate. A dash of orange flower water, redolent of the graceful days that are no more. Another of wine from Andalusian vineyards, and the sensation may be secured. By the law of contrasts, the vague must give way to the decided. The stirring, glorious climax after the brief, gentle interlude will be had in canapé of olives stuffed with anchovies and capers, deluged with cayenne, prone on their beds of toast and girded about with astonished watercress. Fruit will seem a graceful afterthought, pears all golden, save where the sun, a passionate lover, with his kisses set them to blushing a rosy red. Grapes, purple and white and voluptuous. Figs, overflowing with exotic sweetness of their far southern home. Peaches, tender and juicy and desirable. To eat is to eschew all prose, to spread the wings of the soul in glad poetic flight. what matter, indeed, if the curtains shut out stormy night or monstrous fog? Wine, rich wine, to sing in the glass with odorous music, the autumn dinner demands. Burgundy, rich red Burgundy it should be, and let none other but yourself warm it. Study its temperature as the lover might study the frowns and smiles of his beloved. And the spirit of wine will sing in your hearts that you too may triumph in the scent and taste of his music, his magnetic and mastering song. And the Burgundy will make superfluous port and Tokay, and all the dessert wines, sweet or dry, which unsympathetic diners range before them upon the coming of the fruit. Drink nothing else until wine glass be pushed aside for cup of coffee, black and sweet of taste, a blend of mocha and Mysore, rich, thick, luxurious, Turkish coffee would be a most fitting epilogue. But then, see that you refuse the more frivolous feminine liqueurs. Cognac, old and strong-hearted, alone would meet the hour's emotions. Cognac, the gift of the gods, the immortal liquid. Lean back and smoke in silence, unless speech, exchanged with the one kind spirit, may be golden and perfect as the dinner. The magnificent mushroom. From remote ages dates the triumph of the mushroom. The magnificent, majestic mushroom. Glorious Greeks feasted on it and were glad. In verse only could be duly praised those fragrant mushrooms of old, which were roasted for dinner and eaten with delicate snails caught in the dewy morning, and olives tenderly pounded, washed down with wine, good if not overstrong or of famous vintage. Oh, the simple, happy days of long ago. There are times when the classic simplicity and dignity of the Greek you may emulate, and your amusement find in mushrooms dressed with vinegar, or honey and vinegar, or honey, or salt. But then all other courses must be in keeping. The snails and olives must not be omitted. Maize there must be, well winnowed from the chaff, and rich, ripe, purple figs. And, who knows, the full flavor thereof might not be yielded to the most earnest adventurer, were couches not substituted for stiff, ungainly chairs. By many a lesser trifle has digestion been, if not ruined, influenced for ill. But the classic experiment, if repeated too often, might seem very odious. The modern gourmand or artist is a romanticist, whether he realizes it or not. The picturesque must be had at any cost. Simplicity is not spurned, far from it, but it must be seasoned with becoming sprinkling of romance. What could be simpler than the common mushroom, grilled, so self-sufficient in its chaste severity that it allows but salt and pepper and butter to approach it, as it lies, fragrant and delicious, on its gridiron, calling, like another St. Lawrence, to be turned when one side is fairly done. And yet, ready to be served, its rich brown beauty is spread upon the paler brown of the toast, and above rests butter's brilliant gold. Have you not an arrangement as romantic in conception as that? Paltry meats and undesirable vegetables should not be allowed to dispute supremacy with it. Serve it alone, as you respect yourself. Do not make your breakfast or dinner table as preposterous a plunder as the modern picture gallery. Should simplicity pall upon you, and moments there are when it cannot fail to pall, enrich your grilled mushrooms with a sauce of melted butter and onions and parsley and a single note of garlic. To accord with your passing mood of suave serenity, stew them gently and considerately in daintiest stew pan your kitchen can provide, and let cayenne and powdered mace exult as the romantic elements of the stirring poem. A still more poetic fancy may be met and sweetly satisfied by ragout of mushrooms. Listen reverently, for it is food fit to be set before the angels. Over the mushrooms, first boiled on a quick fire, pour a gill of pure red wine, and the best Burgundy thus used will not be wasted. Then scatter spices, mace, and nutmeg with a discreet hand. Boil once more. Pour the marvelous mixture upon 5 or 7, or more if wanted, yolks of eggs, hard-boiled. Garnish the dish with grilled mushrooms, and bless the day that you were born, predestined as you were, from all eternity for this one interval of rapture. Possibility of rapture There is likewise in a white fricassee of mushrooms, which, if you have your own happiness at heart, you cannot afford to despise. Secure then, without delay, for who would play fast and loose with happiness, a quart of fresh mushrooms. Clean them with hands as tender as if bathing a newborn babe. In 3 spoonfuls of water and 3 of milk, let them boil up 3 times. See that temptation leads you not to violate the sanctity of this thrice 3. Nutmeg, mace, butter, a pint of rich thick cream alone at this juncture will appease the saucepan's longings. Shake well, and all the time, mind you. Be careful there is no curdling, or else damnation. The masterpiece once triumphantly achieved and set upon a table covered with a fair white cloth. Great will be the rejoicing in the earthly paradise of your dining room. Another sensation, another thrill awaits you in mushrooms au gratin. Here, indeed, is romanticism gone mad. Grated bacon, shallots, a bouquet garni, mace, pepper, and salt. Eggs and butter share the baking dish with the mushrooms. Breadcrumbs complete the strange, subtle combination upon which you may break your fast, dine, sup and sleep as Valentine upon the very naked name of love. A sorry plight were yours if love, fickle and fading, could be preferred to a dish of mushrooms fashioned so fantastically. And oh, what lovely, beautiful eating there is in this world. For a good dinner, I would have given twice the 300 years of eternal fame offered by Voltaire for a good digestion. But lovely and beautiful are but feeble words when it is a question of the mess of mushrooms, for which who would not sacrifice eternal fame forever in all cheerfulness and glee. The reigning sultana in the mushroom's harem is the brilliant golden egg. Sweet symphonies in brown and gold are the dishes their union yields. Mushrooms and eggs, it's a delight best suited to a midday breakfast, a joyous course to follow the anchovy salad, the eel well smoked, or whatever dainty hors d'oeuvre may stimulate to further appetite. The eggs, scrambled and rivaling the buttercup's rich gold, are laid delicately on crisp toast and present a couch, soft as down, for a layer of mushrooms. Let Ruskin rave of Turner's sunsets. Let the glory of the Venetians be a delight among art critics, But when did Turner invent a finer scheme of color than egg and mushroom thus combined for the greater happiness of the few? A silver dish or one of rarest porcelain should be frame for a picture so perfect. Borrow a hint from the Hungarians and vary the arrangement to your own profit. Make a puree of the mushrooms as pretty as cream permits, and offer it as foundation for eggs, poached deftly and swiftly, a harmony in soft, dove-like grays and pale yellow, the result. It is an admirable contrivance, a credit to Magyars, and there is no known reason why it should not be eaten on the banks of the Danube. To drink red wine would be to strike a false note in the harmony. Another day, another dish, which you cannot do better than make omelets with mushrooms. And if you will, you may eat it even as it was prepared for royal stewards by Master Cook Rose, who wrote almost as prettily as he cooked. Thus: stove your mushrooms between two dishes, season them with salt, pepper, and nutmeg, then make an omelet with a dozen eggs, and when he is ready, cover him with your mushrooms and fold him up, triangle-wise, and serve him with the juice of lemons over him. A royal dish indeed. Creatures of infinite resources, eggs and mushrooms meet in cases to produce a new and distinct joy. The mushrooms, stewed in milk, thickened with the yolks of eggs and breadcrumbs, line the little fluted china cases. Into each a fresh egg is broken. Then more mushrooms and breadcrumbs are spread gently above. A shallow pan, its bottom just covered with hot water, receives the cases, and 10 minutes in the oven will complete a triumph which, once tasted, you may well remember all the days of your life. The kidney is loved by the mushroom scarce less tenderly than the egg. Kidney with mushrooms, fragrant, rich, ravishing, may also be claimed by the happy midday hour. And like so many a noble dish, it lavishes upon you the pleasures of anticipation. For the kidneys, cut in slices and laid in thickened gravy, must stew slowly, never boiling, unless you would have them vie with leather in consistency. At an early stage, the mushrooms, also in pieces, may be added, and pepper and salt according to inclination. And slowly, slowly, let the stewing continue. At the last supreme moment, pour in a glass of generous red wine, or, if it please you more, Marsala, and serve without delay. With the tender fillet, mushrooms prove irresistible. With the graceful cutlet, they seem so ravishing that they may for the moment forget all else. As sauce, mushroom is the chosen one of fowl and fish alike. Join your mushrooms to bechamel, one of the great mother sauces. With it, ham, tomato, nutmeg, pepper, lemon juice are the chief ingredients in the plate. Who, after testing it, will dare find naught but vexation and vanity in the reign of the 16th Louis? Subtle variation may be had by substituting as a foundation for the sauce bechamel, the sauce of the regents or the sauce of the princess, while a sensation apart springs from the lofty alliance between oysters and mushrooms. How natural that for masterpieces in mushrooms, royalty so often has stood sponsor. Upon the Prince of Württemberg rests the glorious responsibility of Seine shad à la purée des champignons. If history records not his name, a prince, in spirit at least, while a king was he who first smiled upon that kingly ragout of mushrooms, mussels, and shrimps. Be you a king in your turn, there are few pleasures equal to it. For white fowls of all sort, Mrs. Glass recommends her mushroom sauce, thus giving loose reins to the artist's fancy. The fowls may be boiled, and then rich with cream must be the sauce that redeems it from insipidity. It may be roasted, and then let the mushrooms be somewhat more in evidence, or it may be broiled, and then mayhap it would be wise to grill the mushrooms whole instead of converting them to a sauce. Count the innumerable ways in which the mushroom adds to the gaiety of the gourmand. What would the vol au vent be without it? What the fine pie, made otherwise of carps and artichokes and crayfish's feet and lobster claws and nutmeg and cloves alone? What, according to the complete court cook, so proper for the second course as the patty all of mushrooms? What garniture fair for ragout or fricassee, according to the same authority, than mushrooms? But, however they may be served and eaten, mushrooms you must make yours at any cost.